Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. I'm Dan John, and each and every week I sit down here and answer your questions. This is episode 283, and we're sneaking up to that 300 barrier. I'm very excited. Listen, if you have a question, send them to us at this address, podcast@DanJohnUniversity.com. I'm happy to answer most questions, and we have some fun ones today. I actually had to prep one of them, or two of them actually. So here we go. First question is a question I'm not sure I completely understand, but I'll do my best to answer it as written. Shane asks us this. I recently bought your new Armor Building Formula book. Now the book is available at armorbuildingformula.com, and you can get my books at On Target Publishing. It's otpbooks.com. You can get them at amazon.com, or what I think is a really good place, go to danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore, and you can find them there. So Shane bought the Armor Building Formula book. I'm little over halfway through the 8-week kettlebell program. I was recently stuck on pressing, but a timely question from another listener helped me get unstuck. Well, good. And I'm glad we have these conversations, and there's a chance to kind of keep them alive. When I first coached, of course, we didn't have the internet, and I like books and I like magazines. But what's nice about the internet, it's a lot easier to find what you're looking for by putting the topic up there in the Google and pressing the button. My latest sticking point is on the ABC squats. Reps for the Wednesday ABC day are now in the low 20s, and this is what I don't understand. My squat is clearly lagging behind both my clean and my press, with the squat velocity slowing noticeably in later sets. Should I adjust something as the volume continues to increase towards the goal of 30 sets in the last 8 weeks? At the end of the 8 weeks, I apologize. When you said reps for the Wednesday ABC day are now in the low 20s. So the Armor Building Complex, 2 double kettlebell cleans, 1 double kettlebell press, 3 double kettlebell front squats. So first off, I want to make sure it never goes more than 3 double kettlebell front squats. And I hope, Shane, you didn't make a mistake and think you're supposed to do, 3 and then 4 and then 5 and then 6. Once you got over 7 rounds, which really should have happened in week 1, you would have already been over 20 total squats. So this is my confusion. Now, if you're doing the program as written, and it's when you get into those rounds of 20 sets, 25 rounds of it, which, so 20 times 3 double kettlebell front squats, that's 60 in the workout. If that's the issue you're having and you don't see any way to get through it, certainly you want to think about, changing those reps. It's interesting because you're the first person to have an issue with the squat numbers that I know, that I've had questions asked to. But if you need to drop down to maybe 2 sets or something like that, I'm fine with, 2 reps. So you do 2 cleans, 1 press, 2 reps. Or if you can't get through that, 2 cleans, 1 press, 1 rep. But I got to tell you, if you make any more variations from that, then I kind of starting to think you're not doing the Armor Building Formula. Shane, I think I'm going to ask you, and I ask this all the time of people, and what's nice in the last few months, people are following up on these. If I'm not clear in my answer, please follow up. And if I'm way off on what I'm trying to tell you, send it to the podcast. Mention that you've already asked the question. This is a follow-up. If not, just ask down there in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer that. Thank you. This question comes from Pete. Pete, I feel like I've answered this question before, so dare I say, this is a repeat. That was terrible. Okay, my strength aim is to press the 32 kettlebell overhead. I am currently up to 3 sets of 10 presses with the 24. I am able to push press the 32, but trying to strict press it seems impossible to budge. I've scaled down my kettlebell training to just two to three sessions a week as I play soccer football once a week, and I get about 50 miles a week on his bike ride. I'm going to tell you from the heart, Pete, playing soccer, I don't know how many, just once a week, and getting a 50-mile bike ride in a week, it's not over the top, but I do have a sense it would impact your pressing strength. Plus, he tells us, gentle listeners, I have a fairly active job. I'm a father, and I'm fast approaching the big 40. So the 4 to 5 kettlebell session was getting too much. I have a 16, a 24, and a 32, great, the classic bells. And I don't follow a program as such. I'm just aware of rep and sets, and I gradually increase as I go. I remember not too long ago, I couldn't even press the 24, so I'm definitely making progress. Yeah, absolutely. Listen, folks, if he was couldn't press the 24, but now he's getting 3 sets of 10, that's really good progress. That's one of the things I love about lifting weights is that you say something like that and the rest of us nod along and, say, yeah, that's great. Keep going. You're on the right track. Generally, I try one session a week to do swings and rows and the other sessions, presses and squats. If I get a third session, it will be the ABC using the 16 or the 24 or snatches or some other complex, depending on how fresh I am. Do you have any tips with the time and bells that I have to pressing the 32? Yeah, if you pull out the armor building formula, I have a little thing in there. I use Boyd Epley's numbers, which, whether they're perfect or not doesn't matter. But as I was looking at the chart here, I noticed an interesting thing. According to the numbers that I put in the armor building formula supplement, if you can press the 24 for 10, according to the numbers, you should be able to press the 32 for 1. And I'm wondering, real simple, this is so Pete, at least in the magic formula, now I'm not a huge fan of formulas, okay? Because formulas can be a little bit suspect at times, I know for a fact that no lifter I know ever use those formulas. You see them all the time in these charts and in books, and they're always Soviet numbers, and yeah, I trust those. Okay, that's sarcasm, in case you missed that. But the problem is, if you have to win the nationals, there's a real good chance you can't do, 2 reps with 91.4% of that volume, because this is a once in a lifetime thing. There's a lot of pressure. There's lots of cameras. There's fans in the audience. You've spent a lot of money to get there. Lifts are different. Sometimes maxes are different. But from what I see here on this list, and I trust it with if you can do 24, if you can do 10 reps with the 24 kilo bell, you should be able to do the 32. I trust that number, reasonably. I think it's a reasonable, I certainly think it's true. But I'm wondering if all the other things you're doing are starting to hit on that 32. Now, you said you can push press it, and so I'm wondering if all you are is just your 1 or 2 off days, so a couple days off, and then test the 32. I could almost guarantee that if I was at a cert with you, Pete, you would make that 32. Because, again, having all of us around, maybe there's a small technical issue, maybe you just need to ramp it up inside emotionally and intellectually to make the lift. If you want to press the 32, I would like to see you just adding at least a few presses every day, 3 days a week. It doesn't have to be insane. It can be something as simple as, with the 24, a round of, my 2, 3, 5, 10, do a set of 2, do a set of 3, I would say with the 24. With the 2 with the 24, 3 with the 24, 5 with the 24, 10 with the 24, and then add another round of 2, 3, 5 with the 24. Do that 1 or 2 extra days a week, and then take a day or so off. Don't have a 50-mile bike ride the day before. Don't play a soccer match the day before, a football match the day before. come in fresh, maybe have a friend or someone who cares for you in there with you, warm up nicely, clean it, and then, as we often say, well, I'll change the word, but make the damn lift, okay? The one thing I did like about doing that chart in the armor building formula is it reminded me that for a lot of us, using reps with lighter weights will support us on our way to our strength goals. Now, it's not faultless, it's not linear, but for a lot of us, working on those lighter reps will help us long-term with those big ones. I hope that helped. It's a good question. And let me know if you get it. It'd be kind of fun to get a little note, okay? Thank you. We got a question from Catherine. Catherine is doing a lot of swings. I'm currently doing 100 to 200 swings a day in groups of 25 with a 35-pound bell. Everything feels great except for my hands. My finger joints have begun to ache. I'm concerned that my effort to age well is actually taking a toll. Continue to swing into my 70s and 80s is a priority. Do kettlebell swings promote arthritis in the fingers? I have no information on that. I don't know, and this is the first time I've heard something like that. But the fact that you are getting that tug, and remember, you're doing sets of 25, so you are hanging on the joints there towards the end. At least I do. I mean, I don't have a death grip. When I do the 10,000 swing challenge, I have a real light grip, and my fingers pull a lot because, I'm just trying to save my grip, for the 20 days. That might be the issue. Do kettlebell swings promote arthritis in the fingers? I'm repeating that because I'd like to know if anybody else, and please put this in the comments, has this issue too, because if this is an issue, I'll ask around and see what we can do about it. In my experience, Catherine, arthritis is either a big DNA issue, genetics, or there are some lifestyle things that cause it. Like I have some issues with my right ankle from throwing the discus at a high level for 41 years. It is, when I teach my throwers drills, if I do a lot of twists and turns with them, I pay a high price that next morning when I roll out of bed and have to go take care of the dog. All the hand-related kettlebell info focuses on blisters, calluses. Not my problem. Am I the only one suffering with kettlebell hand? Well, another thing too, Catherine, I'm thinking maybe we should start some kind of institute, the Catherine Institute, the Catherine Kettlebell Hand Institute. Then she finally asked, what would you suggest I do swing wise to keep progressing? She says it to keep it from progressing, the arthritis issue. First off, before we can get there, let's get that looked at. Okay, let's make sure if it is arthritis, that's one story. If it's just that you're doing a lot of swings and your fingers are rebelling, that's another issue. So what I want you to think of, how can you keep going ahead? First off, maybe it's time for you to get a different variation of the kettlebell swing. Obvious to me, first, before we even get, you're doing 4 sets of 25 or 8 sets of 25. Maybe it's time to shift off that 25 number. When I do kettlebell swings, we almost always live in that 10 to 15 range. The humane burpee is 15. In fact, a lot of us who've done the 10,000 swing challenge multiple times, there are times I can't even think about doing another swing the rest of my life. There are other swing variations. I'd like you even to pop on the ground. I mean, if you have anything close to you, one of the things, if your hands are hurting for a while, I have a couple of ideas. First off, the hip thrust is a marvelous exercise. I did 4 rounds yesterday of hip thrust, deficit deadlift, goblet squats, hanging bent knee leg raises. And I got to tell you, when I popped out of bed this morning, my butt and my quads were barking at me, even though I didn't go very heavy on the squats. So hip thrust can be a real good thing. And of course, you're not going to have any grip issues. If you go and use, the search engine here on YouTube, I have an exercise called the Bulgarian goat bag swing. It's a fun little thing, and I have such a stupid name for it, but that might be a real answer. You're going to hold the kettlebell by the horns and the curl grip and stick the belly of the ball into your stomach, and you're going to do hinges that way. I'm not going to recommend the waiter bow to you, but I think if you look at the hip thrust and the Bulgarian goat bag swing as maybe, and maybe do those for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, and just give your hands a break, including your grip. Now, when I first met the kettlebell experts, I believe it was Steve Maxwell who told me that the greatest gift of the kettlebell, I think is how he said it, was what it did for his grip. I have to be careful about using people's names. I told a story online here about a guy came back from a camp, and he told Eric Subert and I this funny story. Well, I gave it again here on the podcast, and I can't tell if he's offended or not, but I got this very strange letter in the mail from him saying he doesn't ever remember saying that. Well, I tend to have a pretty good memory, of course, if you look at my academic degrees, you can see that I'm not as dumb as I look. But let's think about this. Let's regress to hip thrusts and Bulgarian goat bag swings for a while. Give your hands a break. While you're giving your hands a break, I want you to go see a doctor, a medical professional, and get it looked at. I don't know how they can tell if it's just sore joints versus arthritis, but maybe it's something real simple. And if you are cleared to come back to swings, let's play around in that 10 and 15 rep range for a while and see if we can kind of give you some more time swinging the bell. And I love the point you make here about wanting to swing the bell into your 70s and 80s. I love that. But if everything in life, if you want to progress into the 70s, 80s, 90s, 100s, you're going to have to make sure you don't want to break anything, or you don't want to rub something down so much it can't replace itself. So I hope that helped, Catherine, and I applaud you for your goal, and I think it's wonderful. So let's get those hands looked at. Let's try the hip thrust Bulgarian goat bag swing idea, and when you come back to swinging for at least a while, think 10, think 15. And by the way, if you do 10, 15, 25, 10, 15, 25, that gets you to that 100 with a lot less tugging on those fingers. So let me know how it goes. I'd be very interested, okay? Thank you so much. We got a question from Ray. I've done the 5x5 program for years. Squat, bench, deadlift, bent over row, and press. Man, that's a Reg Park special. It's a pretty simple program, as I'm sure you know. Do a workout, add 5 pounds to the next workout. My issue comes when I hit a plateau. Well, of course you're going to hit a plateau. Anybody who thinks that you can, and I'm not ripping on you, Ray, but the idea that you're going to add 5 pounds and just add, if you lift 3 days a week doing this and you add 5 pounds of workout, that's 15 pounds the first week. And then it goes 30, and then it goes 45 pounds from your start, and then it's 60. 2 months, it's 120. Those numbers start to add up. My issue comes when I hit a plateau. I'm not quite sure how to reload to continue to progress. I'm 45 years old, and my goal is to add some size, but also great strength. Inevitably, I get stuck at a plateau, and for lack of a better term, I don't know how to get unstuck. Well, any program, and I love 5x5, and in fact, in the armor building formula, I recommend the Reg Park 5x5 program. In one of my first articles over on Testosterone Nation, I talked about 5x5 and all the variations. As good as it is, and I think it's great, you got to switch things up. One of the things I'd recommend to you almost instantly, if you wouldn't mind, is, you got 5 by 5, you're getting stuck on load, drop to 5 sets of 3. So, and let me just give you a template for a month, okay? Start the month off. I've given something like this before. Yeah, I mean, you're already at 5 by 5. So the next workout, let's drop it to 5 sets of 3. In fact, I'd even keep the same load and make it a bit of a deload. But if it feels good, grease it up and go heavier. The next week, so you go 5 by 5, go 5 by 3, stay with the same load of the 5 by 3, but go 3 by 5, more reps, on each set, same volume for the whole workout. Then maybe have a deload. I love 3 sets of 8 for everybody, that kind of deload-ish, and you stay with the same exercises, but since you have 8, you have to go naturally lighter. But there's another workout I'd like you to add is the 3 sets of 3. And I'd like you to dance that 3 sets of 3 with the 3 sets of 5 somehow. But the easiest way for you, if you're going to stick with these exercises, by the way, which I think are marvelous, is just change your rep and set variations. I do think one of the issues you're going to have is that naturally you're going to have to back load off. And an easy way to back load off is to either do 3 sets of 8, which is a natural, and 3 workouts in 1 week, 3 sets of 8. And then another thing you can do is stay with the same load and do 5 sets of 3 and get the reps in. The late, great friend of mine, John Powell, his 5 by 5 program is another idea I'd like you at least swim through. He would write an annual goal. Let's say, I'll just say 200, and it doesn't matter, kilos, pounds, or exercise. And what he would do is he would put 200 on the bar, whatever, and he would do whatever exercise. And maybe he got the first workout of the year of his 5 set. Set 1 was 3 reps, set 2 was 2 reps, the third rep was 1, and then he got I'll review that just for clarity. So maybe on the first working set, he got 3 reps. The second working set got 2. Maybe he only got a single on the third one, come back and got 2 on the fourth set, and then got another single. Well, his goal for the year is to do that 5 sets of 5. So what he would try to do is work his way up each Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or in his case, it would have been on this particular workout, Monday, Friday, Wednesday, Monday, Friday, Wednesday, Monday, Friday, Wednesday. And he would just try to nudge up the total reps in each workout. So maybe in the second time he comes around, he does all the exact same numbers, but on that third set where he got a single, he'd get a double. So he's nudged up 1 rep. There are just so many ways to get there, Ray. But the most important thing is you have to respect the cyclical nature of what we do in the weight room, and the fact that I'm not sure of many things in my life that work with linear periodization. I would say that, compound interest, where the joke is the 8th marvel of the world. Compound interest is amazing, but when I look at my investments, even the ones that if I go, that's true. Now, if I step back, 45 years on a couple of them, almost 50 years on a couple of them. Wow. If I step back far enough, it kind of almost looks like a straight line. But as I get closer, you can see more cyclical behavior, and you get really close, and you can see some big drops and big raises. Nobody can train linear progression very long. You have to come in and adjust the reps and sets. And I gave you a couple ideas, and I hope you try one. They're kind of fun. All right, thank you so much, okay? And good luck to you. We have a question from Kasim. I'm a 35-year-old man who works a desk job and feel that despite my efforts to counteract the time I spend sitting, my body is starting to pay the price. I train 3 times a week with the 5 movements, walk minimum 10,000 steps a day. This is really good. And try my best to include a couple sessions of original strength throughout the week. Wow, I got to say, Kasim, this is good. I like what you're doing, and you're doing the basics here really well. One of your previous episodes mentioned the work of Vlad Yanda, and it had me thinking that maybe a program targeting the Phasic muscles for 12 weeks or so would really help me. In your opinion, what push, pull, hinge, squat, carry would best target those muscle groups? It's interesting you say that. So just in the most general way, let me say it, okay? And I've used this. By the way, not a lot of people respect the work of Yanda anymore. I was at a workshop, it'll be 6 years ago this summer, because it's when my brother died. And I was doing a workshop in England, and then someone took a picture of one of my posts and posted it online and said how professional in this day and age to use the work of Yanda. Now, the next day, I had a chance to speak again, and I challenged this person to raise their hand and say who they were. They did not, because I really wanted to have well, you know what? I'd like to say I'd like to have had a one-on-one conversation with them, but I also think that a brouhaha or a Donnybrook could have emerged. So, all right, so very simply, tonic muscles are those muscles that shrink or tighten up with age, illness, or injury. And I got to tell you, and obviously the person who criticized me probably has never spent much time in the terminal area of hospitals, but these are the muscles that tighten. And what you'll notice is that it's interesting because it's also the muscles you see most young people train in the gym. The standards are the pecs, the biceps, the hip flexors, and the hamstrings, okay? That's why you'll notice the exercise like the stony stretch that I push so much. I'm always pushing the hip flexor stretches. I love those big, long stretches. But if I were to flex my pecs, my biceps, my hip flexors, my hamstrings, I would turn myself into a very old man. Now, having said that, I have to laugh out loud because at 68, now I am a very old man, but I don't feel it. One of the reasons is because I focus on stretching my pecs, my biceps, my hip flexors, and my hamstrings. The Phasic muscles, by the way, I've often explained, Phasic muscles are the ones that you hunt with or sprint away from another predator, and the tonic muscles are the ones that have you hold on to after you climb a tree. Those are the ones you hold on to with dear life. Okay, and it actually works pretty well. So the Phasic muscles are the ones that tend to weaken, or sometimes you hear the word inhibit, as we get older, injured, or ill. And I got to tell you, the glute is the classic. I mean, you can see when the glute hasn't been trained. All you need to go is to a beach, and that saggy bottom is indicative of age, of illness, and of injury. I'm just going to give you the four big ones, the ones I focus on: the deltoids, the triceps, the ab wall. By the way, the ab wall, a lot of people train it by doing endless crunches, but really, the best ab exercise I know, and I make this joke all the time, is vomiting. If you've ever had a good case of the flu, you'll notice right after your ab wall is just in great shape. I mean, I've had issues with my life being ill, and I when I come around, I always kind of laugh at how well vomiting works the ab wall. It's an explosive. The ab wall is a fast twitch muscle fiber. If you go to track meets, you'll see great abs. Very often with people who don't train abs the way you see people train abs at the spa or the gym that you're at. So the ab wall, the deltoids, the triceps, the glutes, the glutes, the glutes, the glutes. So when I look at this, what you've asked me, I like what you have here. He asked this, so on push, I would say it's the overhead press family. Your militaries and your kettlebell variations of presses. Press, overhead. Now, if you bench press, that's great, works the pecs, but a lot of us tend to get this way. For the ab wall, I'm a big fan of the hanging bent knee leg raise and the ab wheel. I think the ab wheel is really underrated as an ab exercise, but I'm going to hold off on the pull. So for the push, overhead work. For the hinge, the squat, and the carry, all of those are glutes, glutes, glutes. So on the hinge, it's the swings, the snatches, the cleans, the deadlift. The squat, whew, the whole squat family is good for you. All the carries work your glutes. The pull is a tough one. For me, because I'm not necessarily a good puller. If you know my work, push, pull, hinge, squat quadrant, I'm a push hinger. My friend Pavel is a pull hinger. I struggle. I've always struggled with pulls. That's why I took Vince Garanda's idea so seriously. When I do rows or lat pull downs, and when I can, chin ups and pull ups, I try my best to hold and pause. So when I get my thumbs into my armpits, I hold and pause there. If you know my work exercise, the bat wing, that basically is an isometric hold with the thumbs in the armpits to remind those muscles what they need to do to work. So for me, when it comes to the pull in this family, I'm a big fan of suspension trainers. I like the single arm row, the T, the Y, the row is actually pretty good exercise on some of them. But to me, that's the best one. I do a thing, I have those bands. I have the bands with the handles, and I also have those just good old-fashioned Dynamax bands. But if you get yourself in a half kneeling position, I set and you want to have the band hooked up to a vertical pole so you can pull it horizontally at you. But doing the hip flexor stretch while doing the row with bands and pausing is one of the most eye-opening exercises I've ever done to understand how to, first, to lengthen and stretch, I guess, it would be the right word, for my hip flexors. But also it teaches me how integrated the body is at that level. Gosh, I hope that I helped on that. Folks, I got to tell you, if all you did for a program was stretch your pecs, biceps, hip flexors, and hamstrings, and worked your overhead press and did some big glute exercise, the hip thrust, the deadlift, snatch, clean, kettlebell swing, farmer walk, a squat, you would be very happy. And you don't even have to do all those. Just pick overhead press and then pick one of the other families. You'd be okay. No program's perfect, but that program would be okay. And it's interesting because as I'm thinking about what I've been doing the last few months, that's kind of what I'm doing too. So Kasim, I really appreciate the question because it reminds me that I kind of follow my own thoughts here. So I really do appreciate that. Okay, we have a question from Gregory. Years ago, you did a podcast talking about combining easy strength with some of the original strength bulletproof drills and finishing with the walk. It's funny. Literally, within an hour of me starting this podcast, I wrote a little booklet for Tim Anderson on original strength. And Tim and I joked because, and he's got that great Southern accent, so he Forrest Gumps this thing. Easy strength and original strength are like peas and carrots, okay? So, as I recall, you said it was pretty good. In listening to this, it reminded me of the workout that shall not be named, but reasonable and sustainable and more thoroughly planned, okay? My question is two parts. Do you think this format being pretty good still? Gregory, I mean, if you read Easy Strength for Fat Loss, or even the Easy Strength Omni book, that's what I do. In fact, this booklet, I just sent booklet, whatever, to Tim is basically, there's this whole section where I have, and if you go to any of my books, on the website, we call it on the website the Hypertrophy and Mobility Program. But in my books, I call it the post-deployment program because I put it together for some special forces guys to undo the damage. One of my buddies had 14 deployments. That's 14 times he's been in war zones. I mean, that's, what magic formula have to undo that, So yeah, pretty good. I think it's really good. So yeah, I stand by that, and there's no question. And then second, would you recommend something similar with the armor building formula after the easy strength sessions 3 days a week and the walking 2 days a week, or a different method to add a hypertrophy focus after easy strength, or the two ideas of easy strength and hypertrophy incompatible? My friend Gregory, that's a pretty convoluted sentence, and there's a lot there. Can you do armor building formula with original strength? Absolutely. In fact, okay, first off, I always tell people, no matter what you're doing, always walk after your weight workout. I walk a half an hour, but if all you can get is 10, 15 minutes, that's great. Stu McGill, that great genius from Guelph, Canada, University of Guelph, he always talks about, when in doubt, walk, for your spinal health. For fat loss, walk. St. Augustine, says that, it is solved by walking. Listen, there's nothing new under the sun with walking being the secret. I really have a great respect for walking. Now, of course, I train fasted, so I do believe, I get this from Rusty Moore, that walking after lifting does help the free fatty acids. And I always use, get eaten up like little Pac-Man, eating up those free fatty acids. But yeah, walking, no matter what program I have, walking, okay? Armor building formula followed by walking is really good, including the high press days. Walking is pretty good. So I would think that yes, any program I have walking. Can you add original strength armor building formula? Absolutely. It might not work great on the armor building complex days where you're chasing 30 rounds, but why not take a few minutes after to and before to make yourself move good, feel good, and look good. So yeah, I'm a big fan of it. I think easy strength. Now, in the book and in the supplement, I do have an easy strength armor building formula chapter. And all I can really tell you, Gregory, is refer to that, because it's not that I can't, but there's a lot of I was about to say nuances. Yeah, nuances. Me taking a sledgehammer and hitting you is a nuance. But yeah, they work very well together. I guess like peas and carrots and chicken thighs would be the three, because, well, I like chicken thighs. All right, I hope that helped. Yeah, so the answer is yes, and trust me, it's been done, and it's been done very well. And if you can make easy strength armor building formula and original strength work for you with your schedule and your lifestyle, I think you'll be pretty amazed with what happens long term. Thank you. We got a question from Mike, and he says, I am curious about your thoughts on finding the best balance between body weight and hypertrophy for injury prevention in judo. I'm 40 years old, 5'10", about 165 pounds. Given the physical demands of judo, would focusing on building armor through hypertrophy make me more resilient, or would it be better to prioritize strength alone? I assume that adding lean muscle mass could add some protection. Yeah, of course. But every extra pound might also increase the impact when I fall. If you think gaining muscle would add resiliency, how much would be the ideal before it started working against longevity in my sport? I'll just tell you this: you're getting, Mike, you're starting to almost run yourself into an either or. I think, and this is kind of close to the way I used to coach American football athletes, but you need to have periods where you're chasing strength, and that's what easy strength is. And honestly, kind of piggybacking off of another question, easy strength for fat loss might be a really good program for someone in judo, not because of the fat loss, but because of adding that serious walk after every workout. But if you went and did 40 sessions of easy strength, the old 40-day workout concept, that takes you to about, it takes you around 8 weeks, 2 months. If you did that Easy Strength for fat loss for 2 months, followed by the armor building formula for 2 months, followed by Easy Strength for fat loss for 2 months, followed by the armor building formula, where you're playing around of just getting strong with minimal reps, minimal training equipment, and minimal exercises, and then chasing those other qualities of high rep pressing and the armor building formula with that volume of the complex. I think you would find that to be pretty good. I love the idea, by the way. I really do like this. This has been something let me just say, you're not the first person I've recommended to this, and I just love the idea. I just think it's really good. In my own case, as I'm sitting in this chair right now today, I'm doing the armor building formula barbell program with the kind of a harder press day. And I got to tell you, the combination of the clean and press and the curl and the front squat and some of that and the extra day a week, I feel good. And for me, you're 40 after 30, from 35 to 55. That's the biggest physical investment you're going to make for your later years. So avoiding injury in the years you're at, getting as strong as you can in the years you're at, staying as lean as you can in the years you're at, is the best investment you can possibly make on your future you. So try that idea, okay? And let me know. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and you're only out a couple months, years of your life. And at 40, you got plenty to go. Our last question comes from someone with a truly lovely name, Dan. Well, Dan, let me see if I can help you. In your experience, are there any drawbacks to pressing 3 times a week with the same weight? Now, gentle listener, make sure you hear what he said there. He said the same weight. And the reason I like that is because, and I think you can still find the article. The article is written by John McKeon, MCKEAN. It's over on dragondoor.com. And he talks about using the same weight to prepare for these all-around weightlifting competitions, which I find fascinating. Not something I want to do, but fascinating, where they do, like, they just pull out of the hat, literally sometimes I was told, 10 or 12 different exercises, and you go have a contest. See who's the strongest. I have a 36 kilo kettlebell, and would love to explore the press after a decade of exclusively benching due to strength coaches and trainer saying the press was unsafe. Wow, the overhead press unsafe. I don't know if anyone's ever died doing overhead presses, but I do know several stories of people who've died bench pressing, and it's horrible. The stories are horrible. My good friend Dan Martin has a story, and it shudders me to think about it. And when I was at the Pacific Barbell Club, a guy in San Francisco died bench pressing, and his 5-year-old son watched him die. I'm sure there's others. Benching is the only exercise I know that kills. Can kill. It's like rattlesnakes. Rattlesnakes can kill you, but there's a lot of factors that have to go into that story. Would there be any drawbacks to just doing 3x3 3 days a week until I can increase the reps over time? Or would you suggest something else? Dan, I got to tell you, you're the second smartest. No, Dan, you're the smartest guy in this conversation. I love that idea. 36 kilo bell is a big bell. 3 sets of 3. You're doing basically one of the roots, the tenets of the kettlebell world, and that's greasing the groove. You pick a lift and you do it, and you come back and you do it, and you come back and you do it, and you get those reps in, those reasonable reps, those no miss reps. And over time, you wake up one day and you're just, destroying. I know it works in the pull-up, and I know it works in the press, and I know it works in the squat. Other lifts, your mileage may vary. I did this with the snatch and clean and jerk. I want to say it must have been a decade ago, because it was right after a cert when Pavel, so it might have been 15 years ago. Well, Pavel was talking about it. And so I decided, and the McKeon article had just come out, or I just read it. So sometimes I don't always read things when they first come out. And I went home and I just put a load on the bar, and I said, that's when I'm going to snatch. That's what I'm going to front squat, and that's what I'm going to clean. And honestly, it was one of the things that when I started to really understand that the concept of easy strength can be made even simpler. And as you probably all figured out that, after a few weeks of doing that weight, pretty soon that weight becomes too easy. And what do you do? Well, if you're a strength coach, this might scare some of you. You add weight. There, I said it. Now you can all do my job. When in doubt, add weight. Good question. And I can't. There are no drawbacks. In fact, I think over a few weeks, months maybe, that you're going to be just amazed at how many reps you can knock out. Whenever I've done reps and just kept notching the reps out, those are always the stories where that's, when I then jump up and I break my personal record in the dip or the pull-up or something like that. Not missing is a huge factor into making huge gains long-term. Not missing. Man, if I could go back in time and insist on one rule in my career, no misses in training. You're going to miss on the platform because you're trying to win, but no misses in training. Hey, fun question. And that ends this week's, we had talked about Yonda. We talked about Stu McGill. We talked about, the armor building formula a couple different ways. It was fun for me. Remember, if you have a question, you email that question to podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. I'll do my best each and every week to answer your questions. And until next time, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thank you.